Hi there, Zé Fisher here from Fresh Portugal. With me, Manuela Sena, the head of our immigration department, and Pedro Abreu, a tax lawyer in our tax department. We'll talk today about moving to Portugal from the US. And my first question is to you, Manuela. Is it easy for a US citizen to move to Portugal?
Yes, Ev, it's simple. The most common options for someone who intends to move to Portugal are the D7 and D8 visas. D7 is if you have passive income, D8 if you have active income, like for remote workers.
And it's not that difficult to get them.
No. The application starts at the Portuguese consulate of their legal residence area. In that case, it will be in the US. The entire application generally takes around 6 months to be concluded, and as long as the applicant fulfill the requirements, it's not difficult. The case of rejections are not that common.
And how much money do you need under the D7 passive or D8 active routes?
For the D7 is the equivalent of one minimum salary in Portugal, and the D8 is a bit more. It's 3 times the minimum salary in Portugal. Right now, the D7 is around 900 euros, the equivalent of 900 euros
a month, right?
A month. Yeah. And for the D8, it's around 3,000.
And some savings and
yes.
Not to be a convicted criminal, and you're
Yes.
pretty much good to go.
Yes.
Okay. Pedro, from a tax perspective, not so obvious, right?
Well, not always. It really depends of your understanding of the Portuguese system, and then of course depends of your streams of income in the US and what you plan to do while you are in Portugal. If you plan to create income derived from Portuguese territory, for example, the treatment could be kind of different from the US, and also the US structures could be seen differently from what they are in the US. So it's a complex situation, and you added up also the fact that tax treaty of the US normally contains a saving clause which allows the taxation of US citizens in the US even if they're non-residents. So you have a lot of elements that needs to be taken into account when moving, so it's always better to prepare in advance.
So there really could be scenarios where someone moves from the US and they are benefiting, and there also could be scenarios when they move from the US and they're suffering.
Exactly. It really depends on those structures, how you plan it. Normally there is always a scenario where you get some benefits of the tax treaty, but certainly it's not the same as it is with other citizenship in other countries. So it's better to have a specialized planning on that.
Manuela, how long can an American live in Portugal without a visa?
Without a visa, well, they can come as tourists at any time, but they need to follow the 90 days rules in the Schengen area, okay, not only Portugal. So it's 90 days every 180 days.
And then they need to get out.
Yes.
And come
If they
back.
want to stay longer, then they will need to apply for a visa.
And Pedro, can Americans buy a house in Portugal?
Of course, yeah. It's quite straightforward to do the procedure, as you do it with caution. You really need to inspect the property that you are evaluating. You know, there are some differences in terms of cultural aspects and what kinds of contracts and what kind of compliance it's needed when you were doing such buying. So it really takes some time to understand how the system works regarding that and analyzing how the properties are different from the US, but it's quite straightforward and it's quite possible for them to buy an interesting property here. The prices, of course, will probably be the best part in terms of the comparison with the US.
Mm-hmm. So it's still, even after some rise in prices in Portugal, even if after some reduction in tax benefit, the doors are still open. Americans are still generally welcome, and with some good help and good advice, the taxation is manageable, and yeah, still very much possible.